Hello everyone. My name is Yousuf, and today we will be starting, or at least actually finishing our math section for this summer. I think there's going to be a second part later on, so we're only going to do half of it today, but then we're going to do the second part and completely finish it at another time. But today we're going to be starting division. All right, so let's get started. Okay, and remember, this book is called How to Be Good at Math. This book is only sold, I think, in America. You might be able to get it off of certain places at different places, but yeah, just so you guys know that. All right, so the first thing we need to figure out is, what is division? All right, so division is splitting any number into equal parts. All right. Some numbers may not be able to be divided into equal parts, and some numbers will. But the main definition of division is splitting numbers into equal parts. All right. So here we have a tree, and this tree has 12 apples. Okay. So to find out how many apples can go in each basket that we have, all right, we can divide. All right, so let's divide 12 by 3. Now, you might be wondering, how do you do that? All right, so you can actually, here, let me just explain this one. You can actually use multiplication to do division. All right, so we have 12 divided by 3. To figure out how many baskets or how many apples can go into each basket, you can actually just multiply 3 by a certain number until you reach 12. So multiply 3 until you reach 12. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12. Okay, so we reach 12, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that would mean that there are 4 apples in each basket. So that's how you can use multiplication to do division. But also, you can draw it out. Okay, so let's say you have a certain number of baskets. All right, and then you can just put in apples in each basket until you're out of apples, and then see what even number you have, and then you can solve it that way. All right, so now let's do this one. So we have one more apple added. Okay, so now we have 13 divided by 3. You can't divide 13 by 3. 13 divided by 3 won't work. So the answer would still be 4, but there would be a remainder of 1. So whenever something is left out, that is called the remainder. Okay, so the remainder is just whatever is left behind after the equation. So we have 4, but then we have a remainder of 1. All right. And if you have a remainder, usually it doesn't really matter. But sometimes your teachers will ask for you to do something with the remainder, and then it would have to matter what your remainder is. But anyways, let's move on to the next one. All right. So as it says here, division is the opposite of multiplication, but you can still use multiplication to do division. So here we have the equation 4 times 3. Okay, 4 apples in a basket and 3 robots. And then you have equals 12 apples. Okay, 12 apples in the barn. All right, so the multiplication would be 4 times 3 equals 12. But if you take the answer of the multiplication equation and you put it in place of the 4, and then you put a division symbol, which makes it 12 divided by 3, it would equal 4. All right. So all you have to, even if you switch up the numbers completely and switch the sign, it would still equal a number from the previous equation. So they're exact opposites. That's why this works. The two equations are exact opposites. 4 times 3 equals 12. 12 divided by 3 equals 4. All right. And here it also says division is repeated subtraction. So you can repeatedly subtract a number from another number to get division. Okay, so we have 12 apples in the barn. Okay, and we can keep subtracting 4 from the 12 apples until we get 0. And then we can still get the same answer as we've gotten before. All right, so 12 minus 4 equals 8. 8 minus 4 equals 4. 4 minus 4 equals 0. Okay, so we would have done that. We subtracted 3 times. All right, and that's where the 3 in the equation comes from. Okay, because there's 3 robots, and each robot takes 4. All right, so that's how you do that one. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. All right, so now we're going to do dividing with multiples. Well, let me just fix this microphone really quickly. So dividing with multiples, let's start with using a number line. Okay, so this one is a little bit harder than the other number lines. Why? Because you're jumping with groups. Okay, so instead of jumping with specific numbers, I mean, you're still jumping with specific numbers. It's just you group them. All right, so you jump with 2 groups of 3, which means 2 times 3, okay, for the first one, which equals 6. So that means you jump 6 times, okay? So 2 groups of 3, if you don't know what that means, you can just multiply 2 times 3 and then get the answer, which is 6. And then you jump that many times, okay? And then you jump that many times again, and then you do it again because it's still 2 groups of 3. Then you do it again for another 2 groups of 3. And then for this one, it says 1 group of 3. So this one would be 1 times 3, and that equals 3. So we'd land on 27, okay? And you just add up all the 3s, and you get 9 groups of 3, okay? So 27 divided by 3 equals 9 because there's 9 groups, all right? So what about remainders, like we talked about before? So actually, the bigger the multiples, all right, the bigger the groups, the less steps we need, okay? So here we have one that says 10 groups of 3. So we're going to jump by 30 because 10 times 3 equals 30. So we're going to jump a really big jump all the way to 30, okay? Now we want to add that to 4 groups of 3. So 4 times 3. And that equals 12. So we jump over here and we'd land on 42. All right. Now we have 2 remainder, okay, to reach 44. Because currently we have 14 groups of 3. So since we have 2 remainder, we can just add them to the equation. So 44 divided by 3 equals 14 with a remainder of 2. Okay. So 14 R2. All right, so let's move on to the next one. So now we have the division grid, okay? So to use the division grid, the first thing we have to do is find the number we want to divide by. So we go up here and we find the number 7, okay? Because the number that we want to divide by is 7. It's the second one in the equation. So we find the number that we want to divide by in the top row, all right? Next, we move down until we find the number that we want to divide, which is 56, right here. Okay, so finally, we would move along the row of 56 to this side to find 8, which means 8 would be our answer. Okay, so we'd go find the number we were dividing by, which is 7. 7 is the second number. We'd go down until we find the number that it is being divided, which is 56. 56 is the first number. And then we'd go to the left until we reach this blue row. And whatever number we land on is the answer. Okay, so in this example, it's 8. So 56 divided by 7 equals 8. Okay. All right, so now we have division tables. So these division tables, we don't have to go over them. I will leave them on the screen a little bit so you guys can review them in the video, just in case you want to know what they are. But for some examples, we have like the 1 divided by division table. So we have like 1 divided by 1 equals 1, 1 divided by 2 equals 2. And let me tell you, anything divided by 1 is the same number. Okay, so 12 divided by 1 still equals 12. Okay, 11 divided by 1 still equals 11. So that's something just to remember. And you guys can review these tables if you want to in the video. All right, so now we're going to do factor pairs or dividing with factor pairs. So here we have multiplication factor pairs of 12. So these are all equations that equal 12. So 1 times 12 equals 12, 2 times 6 equals 12, 3 times 4 equals 12, 4 times 3 equals 12, 6 times 2 equals 12, 12 times 1 equals 12, okay? And here we have the division facts of 12, all right? 12 divided by 12 equals 1, 12 divided by 6 equals 2, 12 divided by 4 equals 3, 12 divided by 3 equals 4, 12 divided by 12 divided by 2 equals 6, and 12 divided by 1 equals 12. All right. So let me ask you guys, do you guys think there's any connection between the two? Do you guys think there's any connection between multiplication and division? Okay, well, yes. All right, good job. Yes, there is a connection between multiplication and division. Why? Because you can use multiplication to find the division answer. Okay, so they're both connected. There's a reason why this arrow is here. They are both connected in some way. All right. So here's what we have. So 6 times 2 equals 12. Here we have the same numbers as the equation for the multiplication, but in division form. So they're switched around. So now we have 12 divided by 2 equals 6. So all we did was switch the 6 and the 12 and then put a division symbol. And then we get the answer equals 6. And then 6 is the number being multiplied in this equation. All right. So now we have factor pairs and multiples of 10. All right. So we have 120 divided by 30. Okay. So does anybody know the answer to 120 divided by 30? You can just write it in the chat. 4. Yes, good job. So the answer to 120 divided by 30 is 4. Okay. So 30 and 4 must be a factor pair to 120. Okay. There must be some sort of pair that equals 120. So let's do this one now. 120 divided by 60. Does anybody know what that equals? 2. All right, good job. Yes, 120 divided by 60 equals 2. So 60 and 2 must be a factor pair of 120. Okay. And then for our last one, 150 divided by 50. Does anybody know that one? 3. Yes, good job. The answer is 3. So that would mean that 150 divided by 50 must be 3. Okay. So 5 and 3, because, for example, 5 and 3 are a factor pair of 15. Okay. So the answer has to be 3. All right. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, so I think this will be the last one. We're just going to go through the table and explain everything, okay? So if a number is divisible by 2, or a number is divisible by 2, if the last digit is an even number, okay? So you guys know what even numbers are, right? So if the last digit is an even number, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, those are all divisible by 2. Okay, so 8, 12, 56, 134, and 5,000, even 5,000 are all divisible by 2. Okay, so a number is divisible by 3 if the sum of all its digits is divisible by 3. All right, so can you guys tell me what 1 plus 8 is? Yes, 1 plus 8 is 9, okay? So we're using the example of 18 here. We're breaking it down, all right? So 1 plus 8 is 9. 9 divided by 3. What does 9 divided by 3 equal? Three. You're right. So since the number broken down, the sum of all of its digits is 9, and 9 is divisible by 3, that means 18 is also divisible by 3. Okay? So let's go to number 4 now. Okay? So if the number formed by the last 2 digits is divisible by 4. Okay? So let's use 732 as an example. So the last 2 digits is 32. So forget the 7 is there. Just use 32. 32 divided by 4 equals, does anybody know what that equals? Eight. You're right. 32 divided by 4 equals 8. Okay. So we can divide 32 by 4 without having a remainder, which means that 732 is also divisible by 4. Okay. All right. Now we have the number 5. Okay. If the last digit is a 0 or a 5, this number is divisible by 5. Okay. So 10, 25, 90, 835, 1,260. Those are all numbers that end with 0 or 5. So they're all divisible by 5. Okay. Now we have 6. If the number is even and the sum of all its digits is divisible by 3, then it's divisible by 6. Okay. So 3,426. That is an even number. So let's add all of its digits. 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 6. Does anybody know what that equals? It's not 13. It's actually 15. Okay, you're close, but it's actually 15. All right. So 15 divided by 3. Does anybody know what 15 divided by 3 is? Five. Okay, good. So 15 divided by 3 equals 5. All right, which means that 3,426 is divisible by 6. Okay, let's do 8 now. If the number formed by the last 3 digits is divisible by 8. Okay, so the last 3 digits of this number is 160. Okay, so 160 divided by 8. Does anybody know what that is? A 160 divided by 8 is actually 20. Okay. And if you don't know the answer, that's okay. The answer is usually inside of the box if you want to see it. So it says 160 divided by 8 equals 20. Okay. So we can divide 160 by 8 and not have a remainder. So 75,160 is divisible by 8. Okay. Okay, let's go to 9 now. All right. So if the sum of the digits is divisible by 9, so every single digit. All right. So 6 plus 8 plus 3 plus 1. Does anybody know what that equals? 18. Good job. Okay. So 18 divided by 9. Does anyone know what that equals? 2. All right. Good job. So since this number is divisible by 9, that means 6,831 is also divisible by 9. Okay. So now we have 10. So 10, any number is divisible by 10 is if the last digit is a 0. Okay. So 10, 30, 150, 490, and 10,000 are all divisible by 10 because the last number is a 0. Okay. So now we have 12. So 12 is the hardest one because a number is divisible by 12 if the number is divisible by both 3 and 4. Okay. So we have 156. All right. Does anybody know what 156 divided by 3 is? If you don't, the answer is right here. 52. Good job. And does anybody know what 156 divided by 4 is? It's not 36. It's actually 39. Okay. That's okay, though. Don't worry about it. So since 156 is divisible by both 3 and 4, it's also divisible by 12. Okay. So that's how you divide by each of these numbers. All right. So we're going to go ahead and stop right here so we can save the hardest part for the next lecture. And so thank you all of you for coming. Okay. You all did a great job. I enjoyed having all of your input today, and we'll see you all next time.